He's a real good guy. You met him?
No, I've never met him.
I'll
I wave at him, on the scene, but
Chief Jones will. He claimed, among his other jobs, he's a chimney sweep.
Really?
Yeah. So we had our chimney sweep.
The one I have has to come up from, I don't know, Salmo or, she doesn't have a box. I try to get it done every 2 years. She's supposed to do it every year. We don't burn a lot of Chris.
I'm ready.
You're live.
Good afternoon. It seems evening because it's clouding up. And if you're like the rest of us up here, we start puckering up when the clouds show up. Is it raining?
Yep, there's the
Okay.
rain.
So welcome to the Village of Ruidoso regular council meeting. It's July the 9th. It's 1 p.m. If you will stand, join with me for a moment of silence, and then we'll have the pledge. Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
All right, thank you, everybody. And we're glad you're here. We have a lot to be thankful for.
Yes.
We've got a lot of work to do. And so we're going to get started, and because I know you folks have things to do. Thank you very much. If we can, okay, everybody get their phone out.
Yep.
Okay, everybody knows not to go to low-lying areas, don't we? So let's make sure we remember those. Can we have a roll call, please, ma'am? Jeannie?
Mayor Crawford,
Here.
Counselor Eby,
Here.
Counselor Letterman,
Here.
Counselor Salas,
Here.
Counselor Hooker,
Here.
Counselor Jackson,
Here.
Counselor Corey.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. If I can get a motion for the approval of today's agenda.
Mr. Mayor, move to approve the agenda as presented and also to allow the chair to move items for discussion at will.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Corey.
Aye.
Mayor, may I interrupt you
Sure.
for a minute, just 1 minute? I just want to applaud you on that disaster that we have and we keep having. I appreciate your leadership, and that's what I kept getting calls on, your leadership. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. You're most welcome. Thank you very much. I forgot what I was going to say now. Kind of got me lost here a minute. But we were going to move to, they gave me the ability, we have some of our staff that needs to attend a meeting on housing that we're working on for a lot of different things. So I want to move to the village manager's report. We'll have Mike, who coming up for that?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, and all in attendance, Michael Martinez will give us an update on on the housing and the flood debris removal.
And
On the
Michael is
South
your deputy manager, if you're not
Yes.
sure.
This is on the South Fork fire and flood debris removal. All right, Mike.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So just quickly on housing first. So 603 Meacham, we met this morning. We will actually have our first house in place either by tomorrow evening or the following morning. We'll be getting those coming in here soon, so you should start seeing those move in, specifically 3 in those areas that are cut. depending on the weather outside. We'll be cutting a little bit more of those areas and/or moving dirt, but it really depends on how that dirt will be. If it's soggy, it'll be difficult for those bigger vehicles to get into, but we should see at least 3 homes in within the next week or 2.
And by definition, dirt that's soggy is mud?
Mud,
Is that right?
yes, sir. Sorry.
Here's a 3D rendering of this house, and of course, it'll have the roof on it and everything. So you can, that's actually the house that we're hopefully getting in soon without the roof. 3-bedroom.
So that's the very first print of
Yes.
the house. So you'll notice it has everything from Braille describing some of the interior rooms to regular descriptions and print on it. But ultimately, that will be your 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that will sit on 8 of the 10 sites. On the other 2 sites, you'll have a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house. And so those are going to be moving quickly. We did get a waiver from the governor. The money was in fact sent to us for reimbursement quickly. We were originally on a timeline. That timeline, obviously, due to the disaster, was removed. And so the state has been working with us in that aspect related to housing. The second component of housing that we have is our short, middle, and long-term housing related directly to the disaster. In the first component of the short-term housing, we obviously have our relief center that's been stationed by Red Cross. That's currently at the White Mountain Complex. We have that for 30 days at 500 bunks. What we're doing is we're doing an evaluation after those initial 30 days. What we've noticed is that we ebb and flow on population based on floods. And so we jumped all the way up to 140 people after the first flood. It went back down. We believe that that'll happen again. And so we'll probably demobilize about 250 of those units after the initial 30 days, because that's the exact term of the initial contract. And we'll probably want to look at keeping about 250 of those units here max for future issues related to any type of debris. Yes, sir.
Clarification, not units, but beds.
Beds, yes, I apologize, beds. And so those beds and bunks do come in rooms of, bunks of 6 and/or individual. And so those are back and forth. They do have a mix. That still is an area that is fully wrapped. It does have all the services, and they are still serving meals there. And there are showers and restrooms available to the public when needed.
What was the population last night?
Population last night, I believe, was 38, but I need to confirm that. That was as of our confirmation.
So after the 30 days then, and we sign another contract, then is it our responsibility to pay?
So,
or-
no, the state is actually taking the bill on that.
Okay.
They're just adjusting based on the contractual agreements every 30 days
Okay.
and cost and what we have on the ground.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So that's our short-term component. Our meeting that we're going to have in about 30 minutes is based on what that middle and long-term housing looks like. We do have several sites that have been identified throughout the village and throughout the county areas. It's not just within the local village boundaries. And so there are sites that have been identified. We are talking with FEMA and the state, one for a financial component, because we want to make sure that all of this is reimbursed so that residents don't have to have the burden of a cost placed on them if we get midterm housing. What that looks like is either, and there's there's 3 options that FEMA presents. One is, hey, everyone can stay in hotels and get reimbursed. The other is we can do a component of like trailer homes that will be brought in, but that get moved out. For some of the individuals that may be reasonable, but for others with a large family, it's not necessarily reasonable. And so that third component is really looking for stationary housing that is that can be brought in, stationed on the ground, and then removed after long-term housing has been identified and constructed. And so we're going to be having discussions on that third option. Those are usually fully wrapped services as well, minus the food component. They figure out whether that's needed or not midterm, but we will have those homes. And so usually those are trailer homes that get brought in, can be anywhere from 2 to 3 bedrooms. Those are FEMA homes that they set on the ground and that individuals qualify for if they've lost, total loss on their homes. And so we'll be working through a lot of that program. The idea is to figure out how we get those on the ground in 60 days. That's our internal timeline. That's not a promise, but that's our goal. How do we get them here that quickly so that people can start moving into them, transitioning out of the short-term housing with the bunks and start creating that normalcy of life again with that midterm housing. The third piece of that is the long-term housing and really identifying what funds are available to help homes, create homes and establish homes that that our residents can purchase and that are reasonable in cost. And so we're looking at several different approaches. The several different approaches include everything from manufactured housing, which is exactly like the unit that's going in on 603, to stick-built homes, to other types of prefabricated housing within specific types of neighborhoods. Those are really what we're trying to do to build back better. We don't have any funding right now outside of insurance and the FEMA gap funding that's been identified for individuals to build homes in their current spaces. And so what we as the village are looking at, along with the county and others that are looking at housing from the emergency response, is how do we build homes within a community that individuals can purchase that are reasonable cost. And when we say reasonable cost, we're looking between $200,000 and $300,000 to $350,000 for 2 to 3 bedroom homes that are reasonable in size, that are relatively new. And that's where that modular component comes in on. Most of that, in order to make those houses funding available or to make them cost effective, infrastructure has to be provided. And so the infrastructure is the heavy amount of cost in relation to homes. That's what we're going to be meeting about as well right now, trying to figure out how we get that infrastructure cost either from the state or from the feds to supplement a lot of those costs for people to be able to buy. And then those homes would be available for purchase. And so that's the discussion that we're going to be having in this next meeting, as well as in the following weeks.
So, Michael, the housing meeting several of us attended a couple of days ago, how are we assessing the need? Do we know X number of people need temporary housing, X number need to transition into?
Yes, sir. Mayor and Commissioner Corey, what we've identified is that overall, we've lost roughly 1,580 structures. Of those structures, most of the homes were total losses. And so what we're doing is we're evaluating those through the assessor's office. They come up with a list and basically say, these individuals are total losses. At that point, if someone wants to figure out whether they need a midterm home, we will be contacting them and saying, these are available through FEMA. If you qualify because of the total loss, let us know, and you can move into these homes once they're on the ground.
So you recognize, a large number of those structures lost were investment properties.
Yes, sir.
So.
They don't qualify for these.
They won't, yes, sir. So
So
what
we're prioritizing the needs of our residents.
Yes.
correct. So we are still digging into the numbers, but we understand that a portion of those are secondary homes and a portion were investment homes. The priority on those homes are our local residents that lost homes both in the fire and in the flood. Both the federal and state disasters include the flooding component, and that's ongoing. We've lost roughly 245 housing structures in the last 2 floods, and we believe that number will probably double over the course of the next months or 2 if the floods are as bad as we believe they can be. And so we're planning for a possible loss of up to 500 homes through flooding.
So, Mayor, I don't understand. So we're even thinking about building a home and then having somebody buy it from us?
In some cases, and it's all in the planning stages. Right now, we're looking at between 300 and 500 of the FEMA homes that need to get placed
Sure.
ASAP.
Yes.
And then in the other areas, looking in different parts of town, I know there's investors that are looking at building homes newer style homes, that they would be for sale. And so that's a public-private type of component.
And those wouldn't be from the village, those would completely be a private side, but having a housing stock available that's cost efficient for residents to look at and buy.
Okay.
So we've got several companies, everything from 3D concrete companies, ones that are built with metal studs and different kinds of sidings that are fire resistant, to two new types of structures similar to the one that we're going to be getting in. That's why it's so imperative that I can't wait to get that on with the flooring and all the things that are in there
Right.
that people will like. It'll be a nice home. So those are all being in the works, but the thing that we're looking critically at is the third component on the housing,
Yes, sir.
is to get those in here just as soon as possible.
Yes, sir. And the immediate need is definitely the midterm housing. Again, we're trying to turn around 60 days. If we can do it sooner, that's even better. But my maximum date for council is a 60-day turnaround time. That's our goal.
So, 603 Meacham, you're going to start dropping the houses in. What is the process?
So we're
Residents
still,
need to-
that's only phase two. Because of the pushback and because of where we're at, utilities will still have to be put in after the fact. We believe homes should be ready in August, hopefully. Once that's done, the process that'll be available will be through our third party. Again, as council had initially deemed, those were for workforce housing. If that direction is changed because of the disaster, we can come back and have a different discussion with council to see what direction they'd like to take. But as of now, the process is, if it is for workforce housing, those individuals would be prioritized based on where they're at, application, waiting lists with the third party. They'd review them, and if they qualify for the payments, and again, we were trying to control those between the 9 to 1,200 range for the 3 bedrooms, then they would be able to utilize those homes for housing.
Oh, and Mr. Mayor, my understanding too is that the bedding for those units have to be dry enough to set those homes on.
Correct. And so, as we look outside, one of the things that we do have is we have our contractors on site. They are pumping water even as it's falling to make sure that we keep the water out. They're trying to dry them specifically. We actually have the head of CID coming down on Friday, who will be here to help examine the site as well. They want to take a tour of what's happening, see where we're at, as well as see the other issues. And that'll help us roll into the debris conversation, if you don't have any other questions directly related
No,
to
sir,
that, but we're going to keep
completes
them
it.
moving.
Thank you.
So on the debris side, CID is coming in to take an evaluation of where we're at. A lot of people are itching to get debris out of their properties, and we understand that. Our recommendation as staff is hold off a little bit longer. If you have, there's 2 types of debris, and I want to make sure that everyone knows that. So the first type of debris is the flood debris. That flood debris that's come down is the mud, the muck, the grass, any type of burned wood that's kind of flowed through, that's come down onto the property. That is flood debris. Any mulchish kind of component, that natural debris is what we're trying to remove. That can be done in 2 ways. That debris can be pushed to the side of the road in the right-of-way, and a contractor who is being let by the county, once that's done, and that should be by next week, they will be coming around and picking up flood debris. If an individual would like to remove flood debris themselves, they can take it to our temporary site, which is at the resort and Grindstone. It's that area where snow is usually moved over. That is a temporary debris site for flood debris only. And so that area can be moved off to the side or deposited there. The second piece of debris removal, which has become much more complicated, is our fire debris. And there's multiple phases to that. So fire debris is anything that burned in the fire related to tin, white goods, ash, brick, rock. Some of that can be separated on flood debris if it rolled off into the property. But if it burned in the fire, we ask really that you don't move a lot of that. So what first has to happen is people have been asked to sign an ROE, which is basically a right of entry onto the property. If you haven't filled out one of those items, please go to a DRC or see a disaster manager and have that paperwork filled out if you lost your home in the fire. And the main reason we ask for that to happen is so that contractors, once identified, and I was told today by the state that should happen by Monday morning, that the big contractor will be identified. That individual will, or that group will start reaching out to individuals who have been vetted and who have fully filled out the paperwork for the ROE. What the ROE allows people to do is two things. One, it's a trigger for the EPA to be able to come into the community. I've been told that day starts today. This morning, I was told that day starts today. So within 10 days, and EPA already has a front team here reviewing, so it may be sooner than 10 days. They get on the ground, and disastrous materials that are on site, so such as propane tanks, gasoline cans, paints, anything that's considered asbestos, those kinds of things. Those are materials that basically are going to be picked up by the EPA. That's a free component. Now, what ends up happening is once those items are picked up, they're removed to a separate site that's already been identified, and those are taken away by the EPA.
What about cars?
I'm sorry?
Cars
Later.
later.
Metal, the cars.
Oh, yeah, no, the metal will stay there on site. That's not going to be taken. The second component is then the disaster function. So those contractors, so the big contractor will subcontract several smaller contractors, local contractors within the area. They will be reaching out and saying, hey, you signed your ROE. They will have notification numbers. They will know your application, and they will basically come in and say, we are being contracted by the state to remove your debris. We're going to go onto your site. The reason CID is coming in is twofold. One, they want to look at some of the codes and building back and what that looks like. But two, there's a huge concern. Foundations for homes is the biggest concern that we have. And the main reason we have that concern is because when fire burns, cement changes at 750 degrees. What we've seen on these fire maps is that the fire burned between 1,300 and up to 1,800 degrees, which basically means all foundations are a total loss. If all foundations are a total loss, those have to be scrapped. And if they're scrapped, the contractor will remove them. So we can't build back on current foundations. CID is coming out to confirm that same idea or that same perspective that those are total losses. If they are total losses, once the contractor comes out, they will be removing concrete, they'll be removing the metal, they'll be removing all of those components. There will be a monitor that the state will identify that will be on site. And the main reason the monitor has to be on site is when FEMA reimburses for collection, they have to know exactly what was picked up and what was taken. And so they literally are sitting there documenting X amount of loads left in X amount of truck with this license plate at this time and was delivered on site for final disposition of the material at this time, this location, same weight as what was put in. So they have to monitor all of that. If that is not monitored, the reimbursement does not come back. And so that's the biggest piece that we're trying to work with is the monitoring and the contractors that will be out in the field. That's where we're at on debris.
She was wanting to know about cars and stuff, so that'll be handled a little bit later.
So a lot of the metal and components will be removed. At a point in time, and right now people are, residents are moving everything out to the side. They've been told, hey, you can separate items. Those items will not be picked up by regular trash. They will not be picked up by our contractors that are picking up flood debris. That will stay there, and no one will pick that up unless you contract it privately yourself and pay for it. And then the disposal site has to be identified. It can't be taken to our local sites because they do not have a Class 1 environmental hazards license for dumping. So whatever contractor comes in and asks any of our residents, hey, I'm certified to do this, let me take it tomorrow, that's not the case. And if anyone does take that, they have to identify where to dump it.
So that's why it's so important to wait for CID to do everything that they need to do so that then we can have the contractors, without you removing it, have the contractors remove it.
Yes, ma'am.
And
EPA and
then
the state.
they don't have to worry about removal. Other people will remove it.
Yes, ma'am.
And CID is the Construction Industry Division of the state of New Mexico.
Thank you. That's correct. I apologize.
That's,
Yes.
well, we've been sending these classes, but they're the ones that approve of building codes, all of these different things. So his name is Martin. He'll be here supervising all of this stuff to make sure that we can, because normally FEMA does not recover or pay for the cost of removing foundations, but because of the intensity of the heat, they've started making that provision. So that's why Martin's here, to make sure that everything's done to go along with when people get ready to rebuild or whatever they do, that they have a clean piece of property to start from.
Well, and he'll be here on Friday, and we'll be having that internal discussion as to yes or no, what are the issues, so that when we do start building back, everyone will know what the requirements are. There may be issues and concerns. You may get phone calls of people saying, my slab is just fine, my engineer certified that it is good to go. If that is the case, and we are going to be having discussions, we will probably require a stamped engineer statement that says, yes, this has undergone X amount of testing, this foundation is correct, because if not, that liability would end up falling back on the village, and ultimately, an individual could get hurt and possibly killed. And we don't want to do that,
So this is only for the village, not for the county.
I believe that the county will also be looking at this direction as well. It's a huge safety concern. And while we don't control the county, the discussions will be had with their officials as well.
Anybody have any other questions of Michael? It's a complicated issue, hauling the debris. We did get an EPA certified site.
Yes, sir.
So we can start doing some of the stuff to be taken and sorted. Okay? All right.
With that.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
We're going to be in a long afternoon meeting, and appreciate it, Mike.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And Mayor, just as you stated, it is complicated. We have a lot of contacts with a lot of the state agencies, federal agencies, and they're working with the village very well, and we'll continue that. Going on with the manager's report, we did receive a notice of award. We have through the EDA, Economic Development Administration, $2.3 million for the high T project for the design, and also for a project up in the Upper Sudreth also. We had a match of $465,600. We were able to work with the state in acquiring that match. So we'll continue to provide additional information. You'll see some contracts that will be presented to council for approval. We have Bohannon Houston and Stantec, the two engineering firms that will be awarding on these projects, so.
And the high T is where we're talking about reworking the Y, because of with the hospital being built and all the different traffic over there, everybody knows how dangerous that is. So we've done this is just the engineering and design.
Absolutely.
To see what that would look like to speed along. And there's been a lot of studies already done. That's why they picked this high T design.
And Mayor and Council also going to that same project there. We're working, our engineering firm, along with the DOT, is now with the flooding that we had. There's going to have to be some new drainage structures that are going to have to be designed and built. So we'll work on that also, and seeing what the New Mexico Department of Transportation, how they want to proceed. It is a U.S. highway. We can also get some federal highway dollars out of that. So we'll continue to work on that also.
And the reason everybody's leaving is it's flooding at Brady and Meacham again. So we've got people staged there. We've put up barriers, so the guys will be working over there. So we'll let this pass through, and then it'll be clear by the time we're out of here.
And Mayor, one other item that I'll also, just for all the audience and all that, we're working on our ICIP. That's our fire plan that we do every year. They're due Friday. We were given an extension, us and the county also, till August. So we'll have the resolution provided to the council at the August meeting, but we will have another hearing, a public hearing. We'll advertise that, and anyone that wants to participate on that, they can provide us some projects that any type of project, and it has to be infrastructure, roadways, drainage, et cetera. We'll have a list, we'll have a staff there to visit with, and we'll complete that. We're working on the ICAP process, and then we'll present it to council.
Okay.
Very good.
All right.
I know you have a lot on that report, but does anybody have anything else for
I've got a couple of questions. Ron, first, kudos to Carrie and our PR team. The messaging is,
Jerry and Carrie?
yeah, is very strong, and I know the lodgers appreciate it. Real quick, any update on TDS? Because I know that's still impacting businesses and residential.
Mayor
properties.
Crawford, Councilor Corey, there's been a lot of areas that have been being provided the services again. I don't have an exact list, but that's something we'll look into, and we'll give them a call on that. I know on the Windstream side, we have a great contact, and he's able to give us information on Windstream, but we'll try to get a contact with TDS to get a more accurate one. I've seen them working off of different areas. I saw them on Meacham yesterday evening when I was headed back home, and they were working. Looked like they replaced some new equipment, so we'll provide that information.
Mayor, one last question for Ron. The boil order has that been completely lifted, or?
So
what areas?
the area of the Upper Canyon past the Main Road 2 bridge, there is no boil order. You cannot drink the water. They're in the process, the New Mexico Environmental Department is in the process of testing those areas. Once they do the testing, everything comes back. At that time, it'll be lifted. We'll let everyone know once we receive the information, but it's not a boil order. They're not to drink the water.
Period.
You can bathe in it, you can do your normal laundry and things like that, but do not drink the
And
water.
that's Upper Canyon.
That's past the second to
Past
the
Second Bridge.
Flume Canyon and some of those areas up there, so,
Okay, thank you.
all right.
And then also we have it's a boil order for the Cherokee Mobile Home Park, isn't it? Or is it a do not drink?
That one there, Mayor and Council, they were able to reconnect that area over there. The mobile home, there's mobile homes that are able to, they have the service, back in service.
Excellent. Great work again.
And that was thanks to our, working with again, I want to thank all our crews, all our employees. They did an excellent job. Can't do it without the mayor again and the council. You guys you support us so well, but I couldn't wish for a better staff for the village employees.
Yeah, because the employees, some of them worked 20 hours a day. I don't know how many days in a week.
Right?
And we got the overtime pay to prove it.
Yes.
We do.
Yeah.
So fortunately, we've logged it all, and we're going to get reimbursed one day. So, but good on logging all of that.
Exactly. And one more item, Mayor and Council, is just we're looking at opening the pool, the Whibbit. We're working towards that, a recovery to have that. And we have some baseball tournaments that are coming around the corner also. So we're continuing. We want to have these amenities back open. We repurposed a lot of our temporary employees, so we want to have them back at the pool and the Whibbit. So I know there's a lot of kiddos that want to be back at the pool, and we can't wait to do that, so.
Thank you. And Grindstone is open. There's fish in it and the trails, so.
Yep.
All right, since there's no other questions, I know you have more. We're letting some people go that need to get out and get roads clear. So that's why Josh just left. But he had a deal on here. We all know what it is. So we'll go to consent regular items. Item number 1 is approval of governing body minutes, June 11th, 2024 regular meeting. June 17th, 2024 infrastructure capital improvement plan town hall meeting. That's the one Ron was talking about. We'll have another one. June 17th, special emergency meeting. June 21st, 2024 special emergency meeting. Item number 2, Item number 2, discussion of possible action on third renewal land lease agreement by and between the Village of Ruidoso, Sierra Blanca Regional Airport, and George Koch, something like that. What? Say it again? Castaris. Thank you. Item number 3, discussion.
Try.
Yeah, I wouldn't even, it was a crappy try, I promise. I tried, but my tongue left a long time ago. Discussion of possible action on adoption of Resolution 2024-24, a resolution of commitment of the funding from the New Mexico Department of Transportation for the approval of New Mexico Department of Transportation NMDOT Municipal Arterial Program, the MAP Agreement, L200654, with a total project cost of $377,965.00. The Village of Ruidoso's proportional matching share shall be 25% or $94,491. And that's for all the side streets and everything that we are constantly working on. Item number 4, discussion and possible action on agreement with the Ruidoso Valley Chamber of Commerce for professional services for operation of Ruidoso Visitor Center, Billy the Kid Visitor Center, and the Wingfield House Heritage House Museum, which we hope to have an open soon, for the Village of Ruidoso in the amount not to exceed $227,000 and $227,700, no cents. Discussion number 5, discussion and possible action on the purchase of a 2022 Ram 550 bucket truck from Specialty Fleet Sales LLC through TIPS contract number 23802 in the amount of $195,844.53. It's a 2022, it's brand new because if we ordered a 2024, it'd be 2026 before we got it. Item number 6, discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2024-25, adopting a revised procurement policies and procedures manual, providing for the repeal of prior resolutions and written procurement policies and procedures and an effective date.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent items as read.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please, Jenny.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Solis.
Aye.
Counselor Corey.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to public inputs, limited to the first hour. Mayor Pro Tem over here will give you a timer. He'll let you know at 2 minutes.
2-minute warning.
First up is Bill Hall.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon, Bill.
We've had quite a month, but I wanted to just take these minutes to publicly thank you all for, for everything you did. I've been through 11 natural disasters in my life. This by far is one of the more smoothly run ones, other than, one rogue individual, but that'll take care of itself.
Yeah, we hope.
It will. But you guys, like I said, the daily communications, by far, awesome. I mean, that was, the radio every morning. Excuse me. But I did want to offer just one bit of improvement going forward. While we had a great evacuation plan, I've lived through enough hurricanes to see that the one thing I think, and I think I talked a little bit to Susan about this before, was when we look at the evacuation, we knew we had one route out. And in my view, and when I've been through the hurricanes, we should have had at least 3 lanes going out immediately. Because what you wanted to do was get the bottleneck down to Hondo, down somewhere down the road, because it was the only road that was open. We were not, but for the grace of God, several minutes away, and we could have had, 2,000 barbecues in Midtown. It was that close. I was fortunate enough not to have a lot of damage or any damage really at the house, but it was just one of those things where that's something going forward, because unfortunately we know this will occur again. Federal forest policy ain't changing anytime soon. So, just looking at, this time it was going to Roswell, maybe next time it's to Alamogordo, but just relooking at that plan and adapting it so that you can get the most out quickly. And that was, like I said, that was just something that going forward. But like I said, I wanted to thank everyone. It helped the job.
I appreciate that.
Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jennifer, I think Jennifer left.
Yeah, she did.
Sorry, I didn't get to her. Andrea?
Good afternoon. Thank you. Andrea Fernandez, Ruidoso resident. I just wanted to share, acknowledge the sorrow, some gratitude, and some opportunity. So acknowledging the sorrow that unfortunately we did have 2 lives lost, to acknowledge that many have lost homes, some their primary residence, and some just affected by the floods. So I'm sorry for that. The gratitude is I'm grateful for the village and the quick action, for the utilities that are here taking care of business to get us back up and running, the abundance of volunteers that have stepped up to take action, and just the outside support from surrounding communities. It's amazing how cared for we are, and I'm grateful. I'm also grateful for even though amongst the chaos, there's an abundance of apricots out there, and the apples are on their way. And I know you all are busy handling emergencies, but one of my priorities and passions is food security. So it's an opportunity to establish culture, build community, and utilize local resources instead of wasting them. So the opportunity. This is an opportunity for us to decide how we want to rebuild. Some people will stay, some people will go. How can we not only decide about our infrastructure, but our relationships, how we gather, what we gather for, the music in the park, community meals, maybe an apricot pick. So, just to let you know, the old mill is running today, and that's very timely. I'm not sure when they got it running, but it's a sign of who we are and the strength, and that we can come back. And this year was supposed to be a comprehensive plan. And we're meeting, we're gathering, we're talking. So I hope that we really work on prioritizing the comprehensive plan. I know that the rebuild is going to take years. And from what I hear about the process of waiting for somebody to come pick it up after somebody else does, we're going to be here a while. So let's take the time to be slow, to enjoy the music in the park, to talk with our neighbors, to build the comprehensive plan that is going to represent the young people that are stepping up. And so I also hope that in our process that we reduce waste, and they're talking about, there's the FEMA process where you have to go steps A, B, C, and D. What if people want to go an alternative route, and how can they have a place to take their trash? Apparently Green Tree is full. So anyway, just creative ideas that I hope we start thinking about as we can breathe. And there was a mention of $200,000 to $300,000 affordable house. I'm not sure that the workforce.
It's 2024, that's all I can say.
Okay, right. So finding creative ways like rehabbing buildings and rehabbing stuff. I know that there's a standard, but there's also the workforce standard, and they'd be happy to have a functioning kitchen. So how can we, repurpose, maybe do some things like Taos to not only clean up the land, but make a function that's affordable. So just being creative. I'm wanting to plant those seeds, and just close by saying, may the rains be gentle, and may we take these tragedies and inspire beauty. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly Smith?
Good afternoon.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, how are you?
I know it's not question and answer, but I'm hoping that maybe, because as a short-term renter, and I've talked to some other short-term renters, we're trying to see of ways we can make long-term renter, for those workers that are displaced. So if there's some way that the mayor or the village council can get out information that we can go through that process to make available our short-term rentals for long-term rentals for our employees here in the village, that's something I'm very interested in. And to piggyback on a couple of the things that you all mentioned, Mike did, I just saw a segment on 60 Minutes this weekend on 3D housing. It's amazing, and to know that they're housing the homeless in Austin and thinking about how sustainable it is, and to hear that word stick-built compared to the 3D housing, that would be, I encourage all of you to watch that segment that they did this last Sunday on the 3D housing, and just hopefully, consider that. I don't know the possibility of bringing those 3D printers into Ruidoso, but it was amazing just to watch and very inspiring. And finally, thank you for being the calm in the storm, literally. It was very encouraging, like Mr. Hall said, to hear those voices on the radio and to see those YouTube videos on, we've got this, everything's going to be okay, take a breath. And when you see your leadership doing that, it just helps us to do the same thing. And I just am so appreciative, not only of the council and of the mayor specifically, but like you said, the employees and the staff, oh my gosh, they were everywhere and they were doing everything. And I can't even imagine what it was like being in the water and sewer department during the last month. But thank you so much for your leadership. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Larry Skelly?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I too would like to offer my thanks and through this hard time that we've all been going through. It's not been easy on anybody. I want to talk for just a moment about something bigger and beyond this village council and beyond the county. But I'm associated with a council group that is called the Convention of States. And we would like to see the village pass a resolution calling for the federal government to have a balanced budget, term limits, and closed borders. It's basically that simple in a summary. And we've had about 6 counties here, mostly in the south and the east of New Mexico, pass this on the county's level. And Lincoln County will see this next week. We feel that the support for this needs to come from, just like when we have this disaster and problems that we go through, that we have local community support. And as we have this local community support and the support of the village council on these issues, transfer up to the county level and then to the state level, which probably will never pass because of the Rio Grande Valley and the entitlement attitude that we have there. It'll probably never pass there, but I feel that we have to take a stand about term limits, balanced budgets. Somebody's got to pay for all this stuff. And it's the local taxpayers. And we have such corruption and greed going on the federal level. I don't really see it here in this room today.
Well, you didn't see my new truck.
But it's important, and I don't know if I need to propose the resolution or if I get a council member or the mayor or somebody to bring this before the body for a vote.
And I think you've handed it to us before, and
I have.
I've read it. So I haven't put it on the agenda or whatever, but I'll
Well-
be happy if you've got a copy to leave with our deputy clerk or whatever.
We do.
Then we will certainly take a look at that.
Okay, that's all. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Eddie Gutierrez, come on down. You gonna bring your sidekick there, Jamie? Come on, James. We'll just let you know, these guys, Johnny on the spot, as soon as the fire, we were getting hammered at the EOC, known as the Convention Center, and these guys were showing up with pizzas, showing up with food, and just feeding people, and it got to be about $800 a meal. So thank you. What can we do for you guys?
Well, first of all, I guess for anybody who doesn't know, my name's Eddie Gutierrez. This is Jamie Rupley. We're co-founders of Downshift Brewing Company here in Ruidoso, also full-time residents. So first of all, echoing the thanks to mayor, council members, and all the village people who helped out during this disaster. You know, we all had to wear different hats than what we're used to, and it was incredible to see, you know, ordinary people do extraordinary things, and it was across the board. So, you know, it wasn't flawless on anybody's part, but together we really got through it. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
The things I wanted to talk about are things that are affecting us as business owners and employers in Ruidoso. The first thing, well, actually, and, you know, some personal things as residents here, pushing the state to underwrite insurance policies. So we already know how difficult it is to get insurance for our private properties and our businesses and any type of insurance. And, you know, as these companies start to pull out, you know, one after another, or they limit the number of policies that they're willing to do in Ruidoso or Lincoln County, the result is the price of insurance goes through the roof and the quality of the insurance goes down. So one perfect example is, you know, my personal insurance policy is through, you know, Joe Blow Insurance Company because we couldn't get a good one, and we didn't have LE insurance. So that's how that has directly affected us. But, you know, that's just one instance. Also, you know, we're in the process of re-upping our insurance, and the price has doubled. So it's only going to get worse, and it's something that we really have to get ahead of before it gets out of control. The second point that I wanted to bring up here is, you know, supporting tourism, which I think, you know, especially recently, as of Monday, you know, we've done a pretty good job, and, you know, we're trying to back your guys' play, you know, in terms of whatever the message is. We don't want to be contradictory, and so, you know, we're just happy to see that you guys are supporting tourism, and I know that there's limited places for people to stay, but it's important to keep that as a focus because I think a lot of the things that have changed Ruidoso since I was a kid here is the incredible businesses that exist and the just huge tourism industry that we have, and we don't want to fall back, you know, 10, 15 years after all that hard work. So just something to keep in mind. And then I've got a couple other things. Probably the most important one, at least from a business and employer standpoint, is pushing to expedite funds for grant money or, you know, getting this unemployment insurance through for businesses and those people who work in the tourism industry. Because even if you know, we turn the lights back on and open the doors, you know, our bartenders aren't making the tips they were before. Hopefully they can make ends meet, and us as a business, hopefully we can too. But the sooner we can get that support, the higher likelihood it is that we will be here 6 months from now. Also echoing Bill's statement about evacuation, you know, opening up lanes to get out during an emergency is something to think about in the future. And lastly, I will close with mental health focus. So everybody who has gone through this, you know, they're not the same person they were before June 17th. So, you know, any public services that we can provide or public information, just making sure that the village is trying to get that information out there of how people can take care of themselves. That's it. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. You're smiling pretty there. Thank you, Jamie. Okay. That was it. Okay, we'll move on to mayor reports and presentation. I like this part, but I want to just talk about a few things. Big thank you to all the communities, Roswell, Tularosa, Alamogordo, Carrizozo, Captain, all the local ones have been taking in tons of donations. We're in the process of bringing those all into the community. That's a big job, but they've stood by us. The local communities, it's amazing how they did come out of everything to help us, and so we're so much appreciative of that. We have been in talks with the OSI and the state about the state underwriting 20% of commercial or of property insurance in the state of New Mexico, and not the entire state, just in high-risk areas, much like they do on the I-95 corridor in Florida and different areas in Louisiana. So that has been talked about, and we are working on those things. Workforce Solutions came in and did a denial on everybody that was applying for assistance and whatnot in the beginning. That triggered the federal money that is coming in now. And so the applications that they have, they're then putting them back into the system. And if they've got a good phone number or contact number, you should be contacted. If you don't, then please reach back out to them. And they are still over here at, that's the business, over at the Horton Complex. So you can walk up and talk to those people. But one program that when it maximizes out in certain areas, it opens up another program. And these things, unfortunately, we're not in control of those, and it takes time. And we push them as hard as we can. That's why we're down there every morning, meeting with them, calling them. 7 in the morning we start. The last meeting's at 7 p.m. So we are pushing them. And their remarks to us are, we can't believe that y'all have got this much done and we're moving this fast. And to us, we don't want to be like what happened in Hawaii. We don't want to be like what happened up north, because up north, we're in Las Vegas and Mora County, they had the fire the same time we had the McBride fire. But they're no further along than, we're already ahead of them in a lot of areas because we're real proactive and we push, and we have people that have been through these things before making good decisions. One of the things on the evacuation, we had 2 lanes going through Midtown because it dovetailed into Gavilan Canyon. Everybody coming from that part of town was 2 lanes. TDS is calling me. You think they got my stuff turned on? So they were coming off of Gavilan Canyon, which was all this whole part of this side of town. So they were meeting, and then they were all headed out 4 lanes. So we do after action reports. The chief, Oliver, and I was going to have him speak to this, but he had to go. We will have an after action report to evaluate what we did. We have plenty of cameras and things to see how effective were we. And so we will do that. And we've learned this from parades. We've learned this from other things that we've done. Mental health is a big component of that. We've had mental health professionals here, and if anybody needs help, please reach out. It's a free service that we're being able to tie into. And you don't realize it until I wasn't lying about you get conditioned when the thunder comes. They used to be a great time to go take a nap. And now then, I almost said rhymes with nap, but now then I got IBS syndrome rolling up on you because you get nervous about everything. Are we having floods? Are we having whatever? And the only thing that alleviates that is that we have planning. We have people with equipment. We have people monitoring it. We've got cameras everywhere with USGS all through the watersheds that's tracking the water movement so that we get early warnings. And so those are things that are now in place. Okay, we'll move on to presentation of new employees and promotions. And so we're very, very happy after searching the world over. And now we finally found her. Our new executive administrative assistant, Teresa Gutierrez. Yay. So Teresa, stand up. So she works in the administrative office with myself, Ron, and Michael. So she keeps us all pretty straight, our calendars and all that. And I know that gets very difficult. And so the first day on the job, she was located in the Emergency Operations Center over at Fire Station 1 answering the phone. And so I know she jumped right in and took care of it. So, Teresa, would you like to say something?
No, just I'm really happy to be here. This is a dynamic community, I can tell, since I've been here. I'm really happy to be a part of it. So,
well, thank you very much. We're glad to have you. And we might as well, everybody heard of the Gangster Love. We have Maurice, her husband, Maurice Gutierrez, and it's
Space Cowboy.
The Space Cowboy. He is a new assistant finance director, so I know that Judy over there is very happy to have you. So we got one, and then we were finding out that we had this other position open, so we were so thankful that Maurice applied and that you've come on board too, Maurice. So
Mayor, sure, I'm glad to be here, and I'll echo what my wife said about the community and commend you on the job you've done during a very trying season. So anyway, but we're glad to be here, and thank you for introducing.
thank you, guys. We were glad you're here. James King, Solid Waste. I've heard a lot of good things about James. There you are. Hi, James. Come on up. So tell us a little bit about you, James.
I'm not from around here. I'm actually from Alabama.
Well, you know what? I think I could almost pick that one out.
Yes, sir. No, I appreciate it. Opportunity somewhere, put some roots down, grow, raise a family. Everybody I've met's been real nice. Just look forward to a future with y'all. I appreciate it.
We hope that you find a great future, and definitely you got a good department over there, and there's room to grow.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, yeah. And Tobias Palmer, PD, non-certified patrol officer that just, he got up and left too. So Christopher Dominguez, Solid Waste, we got eyeballs on him today at the lunchroom. Yes, sir.
I appreciate it, Mayor and Council. I thank you for the opportunity I'm from Carlsbad, New Mexico, and it's really hot over here. And I've never seen a community come together as Rio Doso has. It's really wonderful to know that I'm living amongst a bunch of great people that help each other, help your neighbor, love your neighbor. It's really amazing, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Well, welcome to the team. We're here for you too. So thank you very much. And that's the backbone of the community, of the Village of Ruidoso, is we attract good people. And then whenever it hits the fan, those people respond. And so we appreciate everything that they've done. We already had an update on the intermediate housing and displaced residents, update on financial tracking, and the South Fork fire and flood.
And that is Miss Judy.
Miss Judy, our financial director. Yes, ma'am.
So currently, we have the South Fork Fire budget set at $650,000. At the end of June, we had spent approximately $120,000 of that money. So that did not include the personnel, which hit actually in July, which is the start of our new fiscal year. So alone for that one payroll, we had overtime of $282,500 with FICA coming in on those hours at $21,611, so a little bit over $300,000 for one payroll on overtime. We currently have some encumbrances, about another $200,000. So right now, just with encumbrances and what we've actually paid out, we're at about $618,000. Now, that doesn't include some of the POs we just opened yesterday, and it was about $10,000 for street signs and some valves on water areas. And I do not have a figure on what people have charged for July on P cards. So we're probably going to have to look at expanding that budget to increase it a little bit. Hopefully, the state will be paying for a lot of the expenses associated with the fire. However, currently, we're taking our cash reserve. Remember, in this last budget season, we had talked about how we reserved the extra 8%. And we had, council had directed us that in times of emergency or capital outlay needs, we could use that extra 8%. So right now, it's totaling at about 1.2, so we have a little bit over 600,000 left of that reserve if we need to increase our budget. Any questions?
How long does it take?
How much does a hen weigh? Well, if you're asking how long it's going to take to get our money back, there's $750,000 that we can go for.
So I just got McBride Fire money probably like 3 months ago, and we had paid that out in 2022.
Yeah.
So.
But now then, what the governor and the state has agreed to do, they've front-loaded it with $75 million, and it's down to $60 million of dollars that we can submit to, and we're already turning in the invoices and everything as we speak, correct?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, we're working with John Moon. He's a representative that with Homeland Security. He's helping us input all the expenses. Judy has sent the payroll to him, and he's submitting all that. We're waiting, I know you and I visited with them, they were waiting on an approval in order where they could send it, they can start working on the reimbursement process. Still takes a while.
Well, the governor promised that she would have it, that all this would be opened up the end of July, that we would have our money coming in the last week of July.
And Mayor and Council also, the special session, they're working on possibly
Senate
some,
Bill 6 and House
Yes.
Bill 11.
some upfront funding like they did over in Las Vegas and Mora County and San Miguel, that we could, even if it was loan funding, and then whenever we received our FEMA, we could pay the loan back. So there's a lot of options they're looking at.
Okay? So we're tracking every bit of it. That's why it has to be done in certain ways. And so we're making sure that we track that. But we do have a gentleman that's a contractor that the state has taken on and empowered him enough to be able to get things done. John Moon, very experienced guy. We worked with him on the McBride fire. And so they're tracking all those and submitting them. So we'll be making sure that we have that conversation. And I get reassurances almost daily from the governor or her senior staff that it's in the works and they're going to open it up. So anyway.
Mayor, question for Judy. What was the budget again, 600?
And 50,000.
Okay. In spite of that, though, at this time, we're proceeding as budgeted on our capital projects and all of the things we had laid out.
Counselor Corey, so, Mayor, so this was probably the worst time for me to have a fire because I'm trying to close out fiscal year 24 and start 25. But as you recall, we do one version of our budget. And so we had already got interim approval sometime last month or so. So when we started July 1st, my budget's already inputted and people could start spending. So all I have left to do is to close up 24, which what we're doing right now is we're trying to get as many invoices from June paid so that I can close out. We will be having a special council meeting to close out the June fiscal year 24 fiscal years. So we're still rolling. So we're good. That budget and everything you all had passed in May, so we are good at this point. And with the extra 8% that we keep on reserve on top of the required state mandated 8%, we're rolling right away. And as you know, 24 was coming in at a pretty good growth rate. GRT came in, so I don't have all the final numbers of where we ended up as far as paying out and monies coming in, but I believe our reserve in the general fund was probably going to be around 8 or 9 million to start off the year, and we had only used about 4.5 million of that budget to balance it. So we're in a good position financially. If the state can speed up the money process, that would be great, but if there is a little bit of a lag, we can cover it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Judy.
Thanks, Judy.
Okay, now then we'll move on to Robert Donaldson. Update on the links at Sierra Blanca Golf Course, and I know you guys took a big hit on the flood coming out of Cedar Creek. It wiped out a lot of your front nine, didn't it?
Yes, sir. I'm Robert Donaldson. It's good to see y'all. I think I know everybody, and I just want to take a second. Lynn, particularly since I was in your position 23 years ago, you did a great job. And as the council and staff, you cannot be congratulated enough. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you very much.
So I sort of want to give you an update on the links. Obviously, later in the meeting, there's an item to renew the contract with All Hub. Last year, we had a pretty good year. We had about 1.3 million in gross sales. We'll be delivering a check in our neighborhood of about 63,000 in the next day or so to City Hall for the rent. We're looking at over $100,000 in gross receipts that we made for the village, the county, and the state. So it was a good year. We invested almost $300,000 in newer carts for us. We had unexpectedly in the spring a well go down, and it cost us about $70,000. We did spend a little extra on it. There's a new pipe out that we were told might last a little longer, given the mineral content of the water we have, which is not particularly good. Where we are now, obviously, if you've driven by the north side of the golf course, you can see that there's been some damage done, particularly to 5, 6, and 7. 7, we actually should have ready to go within a few days. I had a meeting with our groundskeeper today and came up with some ideas that we just sort of need to, we can't make it perfect out there, but we need to get it open. Right now, we're operating at, we're charging a 9-hole rate, which is half price, but they actually have 14 holes open. We have 1, 2, 3, 8, and 9, and actually have a routing where I think we can add 2 more, probably at a little higher price, but not quite there. So in the last 2 weeks, or 2.5 weeks, we're down almost 100,000 because we're obviously right in the meat of our season and stuff. One thing we did do, we kept our employees on. Even if they didn't work, we paid them for the full period, and we guaranteed that for the next period that started as well. So we wanted to do our part in helping the community, you know, not necessarily put it all on them. So far, it's been pretty slow. Mainly, we opened last Wednesday, and it's primarily season pass holders. And that's one reason we wanted to get them open. You know, they front paid, and so we definitely wanted them to be able to play golf. We're obviously hoping that it builds as the summer goes along, but it's going to, like the rest of the village, it's going to be hard to overcome. We're not asking for anything in particular, but, you know, we do want to continue doing this. We have a 30-year history, and I think we do a very good job. If you look at the golf course, sadly, in one way, this is probably the best it's been in 10 or 15 years. And, you know, I think with 5 and 6, we can make them unique. The mud puddle on 5, where it deposited 4 or 5 feet of snow, is right by the tee box. Everything that's in play is in good shape. On
4
6,
or 5 feet of snow?
No, mud.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So we've done some berming and stuff to try to keep it channelized and stuff. 6 is a bigger challenge. It's a small it's actually a long par 3, and it deposited mud basically from the tee box just short of the green. But I told them if they can get the drains and we can get some drainage, you know, it'd be just like hitting over a lake. We'll make all the mud into a hazard area. And, you know, as you're well aware of, the mud is not even a really good description of it and stuff. I mean, some of it's syrupy. When it does dry out, it's almost like concrete.
Yeah.
So I told our groundskeeper today, I says, you know, we're going to have to look at, this will be a fall, winter project, and really, we might have to recontour or, you know, just live with the dirt and make it work for us going forward, because it's just almost unmanageable and stuff. So I know there's several hundred feet of fence down on White Mountain Drive. For right now, we're trying to get that up so it doesn't create any more hazard. But at the same time, I don't think we're going to put it back up till we sort of get through this and stuff. I think having water flow smoother through the north end will hopefully prevent any further damage than we were already getting. I know you mentioned, you know, pricing and stuff. Our base rate is $120. Now, we have a number of specials based on time and days, but everything's based off that 120. Just show our competitors. Right now on Fridays and Saturdays, the Inn of Mountain God is over $155. The other public golf course in town or in the area, Rainmaker, is $153. So at $120 on our high times, which are primarily Friday and Saturday and Sunday mornings, we're more than competitive with what's going on and stuff. But we offer a lot of other options to reduce price. In the original lease, it called for us to offer 50% off our top rate to local citizens, permanent. And we have done that, and so local residents, seniors get 50% off, regular residents get 25% off. Now, we have actually extended that pretty much to Lincoln County residents. You have to prove it, you have to show a license. You know, we have some people occasionally come in and say, well, I live here, but I don't have a New Mexico license. And I say, well, you choose not to pay New Mexico income tax, so that's on you, that's not on us. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you all have.
Mr. Mayor.
Go right ahead.
Mine goes back to the dirt. As I was watching today, hauling off, where are y'all going with that?
We're taking our dirt, we have a place right over, just inside the fence where the alleyway is from the parking lot of the hotel to the other parking lot. It's good soil. A lot of that pile we bought from the village, from the duck pond 5 or 6 years ago when it was dredged. So we're having it analyzed, but we're pretty damn sure that it's going to be really good soil. So we're going to go over, we have to work it and dry it out and stuff. And then over time, we'll add that back to the golf course. So we're sort of doing a zero scaping kind of deal with that mud. We won't have to remove it to anywhere else. You know, there's boards and things like that that obviously will have to get removed. But the soil itself, we want to use.
My second question.
Go ahead.
So you said the original contract was for half off for residents?
It was 50% off the top rate, which is the one, our rate is 120. So if you look at the sheet I gave you, you're looking at 60 for a senior, which is 61 or over, or
90.
90. Now, we offer time discounts, as you can see there. We also generally, once we get back to our regular rates, right now we're just charging $60 because that's, you know, we're charging a 9-hole rate, but we're giving them 14 holes.
Yes, sir.
Couple of questions. Robert, I presume since you're here, All Hub is one.
Yes, yeah, I've had that discussion with the mayor and notified him that we want to move forward.
Okay, and then secondly, going forward, have you formulated a budget for capital improvements, or what are your longer-term plans once we get this behind us?
I mean, that's sort of a hard deal, because with what we do, I mean, we spent $7 million constructing the links. Our return on it this last year was right around $100,000. And that was one of our better years. So it doesn't lend itself, you know, I mean, it would be nice to go repave all the cart paths and stuff, but you're very aware of what that would cost based on the jogging path and stuff. We do what we can. Obviously, we work, you know, we're sort of agricultural. We grow grass. So we do everything we can to make sure that we can grow grass the best that we can. Like I said, we spent $300,000 last year bringing in new carts, at 70 new carts. You know, the large stuff is just going to be difficult. I mean,
what is the condition of the irrigation system?
I mean, it's 30 years old. A lot of it has been replaced. I mean, it breaks and then we replace pipes and stuff. Over the years, we've replaced almost all the heads with low flow heads. I can't tell you the pressures that we originally ran to push the water around, but they're substantially less than today than they were then, which is, for instance, through today, we've used 119 acre-feet of water. We have 200 acre-feet to use. I think last year we only used 175. So we're doing the best we can to maximize that. And so anywhere we can enhance that, then, you know, we feel more comfortable as well.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
Robert, it's nice to see you.
Good seeing you.
What about your pond? Was it compromised at all?
No, the pond was not compromised. You know, it really isn't the flow. And of course, I'm sure all of you know, used to be an old airport.
Sure.
And the flow primarily is, you know, the rains that we got are out of Alpine Village
Yes.
and off of Snowflake Ridge. You know, we have had years where we've had really good snows and monsoons where that creek actually has flowed, you know, for a couple of years at a time. And of course, it goes out by 7 and goes out in front of the school and stuff.
Right.
There is an overflow area where it would go down 7 and get in this creek right over here and go out that side. We're probably fortunate it didn't do that, or we would have had a lot more problems down here.
Yeah.
So we're trying to keep it going in the direction it's supposed to go.
I'm glad.
Anything else? Okay.
Well, I'm
Anything else?
always available. Don't, feel free to call me. I'd be able to answer anything. And I have to go, so I'm sorry I can't stay for the later
You
part.
sure you're not going that way?
No, I think I gotta
That
go
way.
around.
Thank you, Robert,
Okay,
for
thank you
coming
very
in. I
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't have any board or commission appointments. Okay, that's right. And we've done the village manager's reports. And at this time, we will start with reports from municipal officials. So Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to go first?
Sure. Again, Mayor, I give lots of thanks and gratitude to the surrounding communities, all the volunteers that wanted to come here with the truckloads of water, and you put the brakes or tried to put the brakes on that to have them slow it down, which I believe they did. And the outstanding work of all the crews, of all the utilities. Everyone was out there during the evacuation, and it was a good community effort on all fronts. And I commend all of you counselors too as well in taking directions and giving the support what we needed to do to get this community moving again. So you took a lot of hits, I know I did, but yet it all came out with a good success story at the end is how I see it. But we're still dealing with it. Let's just keep moving on. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Letterman?
Ditto. Appreciate all the, Roswell, Capitan, Alamogordo, Hondo's Allsups. When I went by that night, there was a lot of campers there. And then for our firemen, the hot shots for the forest fire, but then the people that stayed in town to go through neighborhoods, they weren't able to save. All of our homes. But they saved a lot. And I can't tell them enough how much we appreciate their service. And that's not just the firemen. That was the road department, the water department, going along, telling people they needed to evacuate. While all along their families were leaving, they were staying. So they are our heroes.
Yes.
And I appreciate them very, very much. I also want to say thank you to all of the department heads for their tireless work. Like you said, that first couple of days, they probably didn't sleep very much. And it was buzzing along, and I appreciate it very much. Eric Queller did a wonderful job. I've received so many compliments on him. To Ron, manager, thank you so much, keeping everyone going in the right direction. To Michael also. And then it's also my pleasure. Well, and then we have Darren, who is our EOC person that knows all about the dangers and how to get out of them, and he stayed here, and I appreciate all that you did, Darren. And then it's always wonderful to work with all the council. I just admire every one of you and your expertise and straightforwardness, and let's get the job done. And then, Mayor, last but not least, thank you so much for your leadership. You know, all your networking, and we appreciate you being the president of the New Mexico Municipal League, because that gives you a lot of networking skills, and we appreciate that very much. So thank you for your leadership and all of your leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Joseph, Councilor Eby, you're going to have to really snug up to that microphone, buddy.
Can everybody hear me?
Barely. You have to speak louder.
Barely. Thank you, Mayor. Really, all I can do is say thank you to everyone. You know, thank you to the mayor, to Ron, to Michael, to all of the staff, to all the employees who really saw what needed to be done, jumped in at maybe things that they weren't familiar with, but got the job done and didn't ask questions. They saw a need and they responded. Well, you had the village employees out there, you know, Adam Sanchez and Josh, they were out there fighting fire with the water hose. Elaine, Adam's wife, was pulling hose for them. So people were jumping in there. They were saving houses. And I just want to say thank you to all of the organizations that have come into town to help, all of the donations. We couldn't have done it without them. We couldn't have responded, let's say, in the way that the village has to assist all of the people that have lost their homes and who are in need of help. And I know it's going to be a long process, but I believe that the spirit of the people out there that I've talked to in working with Samaritan's Purse, standing beside their homes that were no longer there. Many of them we're talking about rebuilding, talking about worried about the permitting process, but they, to a person, had a positive outlook, knew that this was something that had happened in their lives and that they loved this place and they want to stay here. So whatever the village can do, I know that we'll be in discussions of how to expedite and how to make the process streamlined for those who do want to rebuild and stay. And, our hearts go out to each and every one who did suffer and are suffering now. But I want to say thank you to the administration, to the village staff, and to the residents of Ruidoso who jumped in. In all my traveling around the village during the first few days, everyone was just jumping in, making meals, bringing in goods, just wanting to know where they could help, where they could put their hands to the plow. So just to say thank you to everyone. And I will say this, Mayor, I think maybe the very few detractors you had, you probably won over at least 3/4 of them. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hooker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Don't want to keep passing out as many of the thanks, but want to say to the little people, the people that came from a department that never had anything to do with an EOC, never had anything to do with answering a phone or any of that. They're the ones that came and stepped up and put out information. That call center, those guys and gals did great. And everybody was in the right place at the right time. Whether it be you, whether it be me, whether it be the council, whether it be on the phone, whatever, that's what makes it work. Just don't forget, don't go lower than half a tank of gas. Make sure you always got your little go bag somewhere, because you never know. And right now, we're getting tested again. I guarantee you we're going to see some stuff. So just God bless us.
Jackson?
Mr. Mayor, I would borrow on and just support everything that's been said to date, especially with Joe Eby working with Samaritan, because he started early and he finished late. Also to our mayor, who is a force of nature. There's no other way to describe him.
That's right.
Well, again, thanks to everyone. I think it's important the village understand that our staff has continued working through this arguable crises. I think the statistics, Ron, 11 of your team members lost homes.
Yes.
I know 13 employees of the school district lost home. You know, lots of people in our churches lost homes, but I, for one, am ready and anxious to look forward, and turn the page, and keep going. Along those lines, I liked what Bill had to say as far as, you know, maybe doing a look back and an assessment of what went good and what went wrong. I'm amazed, Mayor, 8,000 to 10,000 people were evacuated. I haven't heard that anyone was injured in that process. I mean, that is just astounding. And it was really the worst case scenario. We were down to one area to evacuate out of. And Susan, as we all sat in those lines, I never heard a car honk.
Nope.
You know, people were all in this together, and thank God. Ron, a question going forward. Can you keep us updated on what you're hearing from an insurance standpoint? Because I know a lot of us are worried that our policies aren't going to get renewed.
In Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, I know the mayor speaks to the insurance, what is she, the czar mayor?
Superintendent.
Yes.
Czar, yeah.
And we continue to do that, but we will, the mayor's a lot of concerns, and anytime he hears anything, he calls and asks, and we'll continue to call and ask.
Okay.
But we will have that information. We don't want anybody denied any claims, and we want everybody to be covered, and that's why they pay insurance for.
Yeah.
But the mayor's been an advocate of that and continues to do a great job at that, too,
Good.
so.
Final comment, kudos to the communications team. A lot of us were Facebook skeptics, but honestly, it kept us informed of what was happening in our community while we were evacuated. And Mayor, I can't imagine us operating without your leadership. So thank you.
Well, I can't take any more of that. Thank you very much. We'll move on to public hearings, and it's heartfelt, and I appreciate all of it, I do, but there were so many people that were holding me up the whole time, pushing information out. You would ask them, they would go get the information, bring it back, and we've got heroes. I mean, I saw Robbie Hall pull 5 people out down here at Brady Canyon and Meacham out of the Adobe Plaza. Just the fast action of the water crew and the knowledge that Adam Sanchez has is remarkable. And then not to ever forget our firefighters, our police officers, who I just got a picture that they're getting drowned out down here, but they're out there in it, so they're after it. Item number 1, public hearing on ordinance 2024-04, amending the Village of Ruidoso Code of Ordinance, Chapter 86, Utilities, specifically Sections 86-1 through 86-12, and Sections 86-31 through 86-33, Section 86-63, and providing for Appendix U, water rate structure, and Appendix A, fines, fees, and penalties, Chapter 70, solid waste, specifically Sections 70 through 15 through 70-17, and providing for Appendix A, fines, fees, and penalties, and Chapter 54, land use, specifically Section 54-404, and providing for Appendix A, fines, fees, penalties. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor and council, as you're aware, we completed a rate study that took over a year to look at all the different utilities within the village to see whether what we were charging for the different utilities was adequate to maintain our infrastructure and also to maintain our day-to-day operating expenses. That study made recommendations on what we should be charging, and the ordinance was amended or was proposed for change accordingly. So I provided those changes in the draft ordinance for your review, and I'm open for any questions that you may have. It's going to be, and it hopefully was going to be retroactive back to July 1 of this year, and then we'll be, have rate increases for the next several years, and those are detailed in each of those, in the ordinance.
Okay, guys. Any other questions? I know we've been looking at this for a long time. We've actually passed on it when we had the unbelievably high CPI that came in one year. We staved off that, held off.
So when will this start again?
Now
I know it was.
retroactive to July 1.
July 1 of 2024.
Okay, so the.
This next month.
Next
Yes,
month's bill.
yes,
Get
okay.
about $27, I mean, on the base,
It ends up being closer to $33.
$33.
But just remember that it's not just water bill, it's,
Sewer,
there's everything.
wastewater,
Sewer,
forestry, and solid waste.
Yes, so.
Mayor, could I ask Judy to speak a little bit about how fund accounting works and how these departments need to stand on their own 2 feet?
Councilor Corey, Mayor Crawford. So utilities are run like a business. You charge your users a service rate. And when you're setting that rate, you need to set it enough to where you not only take care of day-to-day operations, which would be the personnel, paying the fuel, paying your own utilities, but you're also trying to build in a capital outlay factor so that when a well goes down or you lose a trash truck or something, you don't have to keep on raising rates every single month. You kind of set them high to a projection of what you think your capital outlay needs are. The village hasn't raised any of the rates since 2014. And when we were in that situation, sewer was keeping water afloat, meaning that we were just making enough money to take care of operations. We couldn't do any capital outlay projects or anything because there was not enough room within the rates to do that. So you did see where we had to pass the supplemental GRT at 1% that was restricted to water projects in order for us to do those capital outlay projects that we needed because the rates weren't letting any room for us to collect enough money to save in order to do those. We also have an increase, I believe it's an extra 5% on an environmental that nobody else within the state has because we needed extra monies. So when they passed the water rate increase in 2014, we were still in that situation where we were just taking care of operations. Now, fast forward to 2024, look how much inflation has taken place. So now projects that we could fund out of SGRT are costing 2 to 3 times more. So there has to give something. So the only way that you can keep those projects going and your infrastructure maintained and rolling over so that you're constantly improving, so you're not, when something happens, you're not just flat out can't deliver your service. You need to keep those monies coming in. And the only way you can do that is by, unfortunately, increasing the rates on your ratepayers. It's like any other business. They have to pay their workers and everything else. So that's what happened just a while ago when inflation went up, all your prices went up. Your chicken was $4 a pack, now it's $9, $12 a pack. Everybody's increased the rate. So in order for us to keep on going and having a good business model for all our utilities, we do have to do the interest rate, the utility rate increase.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we can send you to Washington. Maybe you could teach that to some people. So this is a public hearing, and so we'll ask if anybody would like to speak on this, either on the internet, or we'll have anybody that wants to speak to it here in the audience. Is there anybody here in the audience? No? Anybody in the ether up there? Nobody? Okay, we'll close the public hearing portion of that, and then I'll bring it back to the council. So we need to schedule, or is this something we need a vote on it?
Yes.
So I need to,
vote, yes.
at this time, is there any further discussion?
I'd just like to ask one question there. What did you say this will take effect next month?
No,
No.
this month.
Retroactive to July 1 of
Oh, okay,
2024.
so how was that?
Well, I think they'll start, I mean, it should have been started on July 1st, so I guess it'll be reflected on the August 1st bills.
So in that, my only question would be that, will it affect the water billing, with the fire, with the water, trying to sort out all of the meters that are no longer going to be billed and so on? Is that not going to affect them? As far as the water billing department, it won't hamper them. That was just.
The people who were affected by the fire, the meters were shut off, and those accounts were temporarily suspended.
Can you speak into the mic better? Because we've addressed this.
For the people who were affected by the fire, those meters were shut off, and those counts were temporarily suspended. So they're now no longer being billed just a monthly charge, the minimum at all. They're just not being billed at all. The new rate won't be effective until they reestablish service.
Okay, so it's not going to add any confusion to the billing department?
No, we're not going to be adding any confusion.
That was my only question.
So if you backdate, Mayor, if you backdate the rates to July 1st, it'll be based on July consumption. So we bill after the fact, so the bill for July consumption would start in August 1st.
That's okay.
Yeah, they start tracking it July 1 for billing in
Yeah,
August.
right.
Okay? If there's no further questions, can I get a motion?
I move that we accept ordinance 2024-04, amending the Village of Ruidoso Code of Ordinance, Chapter 86, Utilities, specifically Sections 86 through 1 through 86 through 12, and Sections 86 through 31 through 86-33. Section 86-63, and providing for Appendix U, water rates, structure, and Appendix A, fines, fees, and penalties. Chapter 70, solid waste, specifically Sections 70 through 15, 70-15 through 70-17, and providing for Appendix A, fines, fees, and penalties. And Chapter 54, land use, specifically Section 54-404, and providing for Appendix A, fines, fees, and penalties.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any discussion? Nope. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Solis?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Thank you, folks. And I know you're probably going to have trouble. I am opening up my side packages on these items, but we'll move on to, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Thanks for everything you've been doing. You're
Yes.
looking like you got a little rest anyway.
I did, but if I can be excused,
You bet.
head over to EOC.
You bet. Thank you very much. We'll go to regular items. We'll move on to item number 1, discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2024-20, a resolution supporting a public-private economic development Main Street project for fiscal year 2024-2025. We got what's leaking?
Right here.
Baloney.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do this.
I thought I kept seeing that.
Yeah,
It's about right. The roof was done, 6 years ago, 7 years ago?
probably, yeah.
I'm pretty loud, so I don't need a mic.
Well, you may be all wet, is what the problem is. Okay, so we'll move on. Here, mine just loaded. Hello, Eddie.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. We are seeking the continued support of the Economic Development Main Street Project for fiscal year 24-25.
Okay, and does anybody have any questions of Eddie or Stephanie right now at this particular point?
No, I don't.
I guess you didn't like the term ugly sweater.
We changed that. So this past Christmas mixer, we changed it to a pajama party, and we actually had more people participate in the pajama party part of it. And so the Christmas mixer kind of makes it more open to what we can do with it. Yeah, we don't have to be stuck to that ugly sweater. We had a lot of people bring. It was very Grinch themed this past year. Yes.
Mayor, I've got a question.
Shoot.
Stephanie, I was just wondering, what are you doing? What's Main Street doing to get the word out to people? I don't see a lot on social media as far as, I don't know. I don't hear about Main Street very much.
So I do quarterly emails to them, and then I do emails to them. So it's like with the village and everything that was just going on, Eddie told me what I needed to say. I got an email out to everybody. I actually walked it the day before the fire started, and then I went and walked it again today. So a lot of it is me pushing the pavement. We ran into some issues with our social media pages from previous administration. We were unable to get into them. So yes, we are still trying to figure out some of those things. And now with the new Meta business site, we actually have people that are able to get into it. So we're hoping that we're going to be able to get that, because I worked with some people up in Main Street, and they said it's actually, if we can get into that old social media, that's better for us than starting a new social media account. So we finally think that we got back into it. So you should start seeing some stuff from us. But I do hit the pavement. I do go talk to them, and I send out quarterly emails to people. I don't get a whole lot of responses back, but the responses that I do get back, I make sure that I either pass on to Eddie or pass on to the people that need to know.
Thank you.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
And Eddie's the liaison, so primarily your job is, can you tell us?
Okay, so as executive director, I am the person who goes out and finds funding whenever we need it. The board is really who decides what happens, what we do, when we do it. I'm the person who goes out and finds the means to get it done. So right now I have a grant application for a grant called the Golden Pear Grant. And what that is it's just a possible $25,000 for operating funds for 501Cs, because we were left in a little bit of a pickle whenever I took over. So we're kind of still looking for operating funds. And then I also have a T-Mobile grant application in, so for small town community funding.
Okay, and we'll introduce, everybody knows Chris Stedheimer. He's the new, I can't believe it, president. Yep, he's the new president. He was I thought he was better than that. But they got him hooked, and I'm glad he's here.
Yeah.
So I know the next two items all have to do with the Main Street. And so one of the things we want to do is, I know we've got Eddie over there with you guys to help work on whatever we need done. And then it's going to be more important than ever right now to touch base with every business down there. Because I've been down there and met with a lot of them already that were feeling a lot of the pain already. And so that we do have our marketing rolling out. I know that Team Tourism, we went through and applied for an additional 100,000 or 150, I forgot what thousand it was, on the state tourism on funding. So we're already pushing that message out, digital billboards, all that we're open. So we want to start staying very much in close contact with our businesses downtown. We need more visibility, because when I'm calling and talking to people, they don't know anything about Main Street still. It was there, it was gone. So we want to make sure that when we go down there and we're talking to those people, that they know who you are, where you are, contact information. And one thing I would submit is, some of them have pretty good ideas, and then we maybe can't do all of them, can't do any of them, I don't know, but we want to make sure we get the buy-in from those guys, and then we need to work on additional funding sources that we can. I know Eddie's got a lot of things he's working on bringing into town. So does anybody else have any questions?
I wanted to say too, I'm also working with the executive director up in Las Vegas in Mora County, since they did go through basically the exact same thing. And they put me in contact with a couple of different people that do provide money. They are grants, so we're working on getting some of that information together. Midtown Association is also working. We have our meeting tomorrow. We're going to come up with a time and a date to have a meeting for people to do kind of like an open discussion as far as businesses go of what they have heard, what they have questions on for unemployment, SBA, grant opportunities, anything like that, just so that we can kind of have a single place where everybody can get together. And we've already been told by ENMU that we can use their big room and have that meeting. So we're going to come up with a date for that tomorrow. And again, I can CC you guys on emails that I'm sending out to Midtown, because they do, like I said, I do not get a whole lot of communication back from them. But I have about 40 business owners on those emails every quarter or every time we have to send somebody out. So just so you guys know that I am doing that, I can definitely CC you on that. And then today, whenever I walked Midtown, the business owners are telling me that they are down anywhere from 25 to 85% in sales. So they're all their spirits are still very high. They're getting through this, but a lot of them are seeing the economic impact of keeping their employees on, having to cut their hours. And I spoke to Becky specifically over at Books Etc., and she's very interested in being able to come out and have kind of a open Q&A with people and see what people know and see what people, information that they can give them, because she's one of the few that, one of the many that's having a really hard time keeping her employees there for full time, so.
Okay. Eddie?
Well, just talking with the different business owners, the one thing I'm seeing is not a sense of urgency, but a sense of panic. They really are in a panic mode, I think, right now, and more than ever, they're scared. I think they're at a point now where I've had conversations with business owners where they've said that if, because they're really kind of banking on 4th of July weekend, that was going to be a big thing, a big boost for the financial community for them. They're telling me that if there isn't something happening soon to help stimulate people coming in here, or to get the message out that the village is open for business. We're not, we had the fires and we had a lot of devastation, but it hasn't affected Midtown. It hasn't affected Grindstone. It hasn't affected, Wingfield Park. And that, we are open for business. The beautiful village that we live in is here. So I think a lot of people have this vision that it's not here.
Yeah.
Or it's been devastated, because there's rumors that Albertsons is gone, Farley's is gone, this business is gone, that business is gone. So I am trying to find ideas with everything from bringing in big name entertainers who we're working with to help generate some stimulation here. And then creating events that will bring in tens of thousands of people, hopefully, to the village to help give us a kickstart that we need right now. And so as that progresses, I'll keep you all informed, especially of Stephanie and Chris, and work with everybody involved to just start pushing things forward with your support to make a comeback.
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
So Eddie, are we going to start having the Friday night Wingfield
We
music?
do. We actually announced it this Monday mornings at the mayor.
Okay.
The mayor went out and said that we're good to go. And we have Ponderosa Grove playing this Friday night from 6 to 8. And I encourage everybody to go.
Yes.
And let's get the community all involved with it and show our support and start rebuilding.
Yes.
I think that's really important right now. And hopefully we can bring in some big events or big opportunities for people to really bring a lot of eyeballs here and
Right.
put some heads in beds and help generate some business.
Appreciate all that.
We're working to bring the drone show back, hopefully like real soon too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor, I move approval of Resolution 2024-20, a resolution supporting a public-private economic development Main Street project for fiscal year 2024 to 2025.
Second.
Okay, any final discussion?
Just one thing, Mr. Mayor, and Eddie, I agree with everything that you and Stephanie have said today. I just think the word also needs to get out that lodging is no longer an issue, where it was when we were camped here. It was, it was a very different circumstance. You know, the green and the gray are gone, and the lodging is open, and they need to know that. We weren't trying to kill Midtown, we were just trying to find, we weren't putting false hope that they could drive in for the day and drive out, because otherwise they were gonna sleep in their car, and I think that needs to be turned around now that the circumstances have turned around.
And just for the sake of conversation, I don't normally do this, but listening and seeing all of there are people still in our community that don't want it to be a tourist town.
You are
Close
correct.
the gates. I want to be able to go eat any time of the week, any night. I don't want the tourists here. So this only gives that minority, I think, a stage, a platform to say, see, we don't need people in here. You're one thing, this thing. But I just want to say, me personally, I say, get people back to work, get them in here, and let's move forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're
tourism.
seeing such an effect from all of our small businesses. You know, we've got a small business owner sitting right here. You know, I am the operations manager over at Backcountry Attitudes. We're all definitely going through something right now. And so, you know, even outside of Midtown Association as a business that we're trying to get through, we're all trying to figure out and pass on to our employees what they can do for unemployment and where they can go. And so, yeah, it's definitely whenever most of our economic development that happens in Ruidoso is tourism. I think that that's definitely something that we need to make sure that everybody is back on board with, is getting people in here, because our small business owners, those are people that need to pay a mortgage. Those are people that need to pay their bills. So making sure that they're all taken care of.
Absolutely.
Can we hear from the business owner? I mean, can you?
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me in today, and yes, it has taken an effect on our business personally. I mean, I can attest that I'm down probably at least 90% over the week over week, year over year for the 4th of July weekend. It was sad to not see anybody walking the streets. I totally understand where the village was coming from by not wanting people here during the time of crisis. And for me, I kind of expected that and have kind of planned for these kinds of things. Other business owners, I'm sure, have not. But I like to be prepared, and I think that we can work through this. I think people will come back, and working with you guys and with our other businesses around us and social media and things like that, I think that we can bring this back and maybe save a little piece of our summer.
I agree.
All right, so we had a motion in a second.
Yes, sir.
Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman? Aye. Counselor Eby?
Aye.
All right, thank you. We'll go to item number 2, discussion and possible action on a professional services agreement with the Ruidoso Midtown Association to promote the Midtown District in the Village of Ruidoso in the amount of $35,000.
Mayor, I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I make a motion to approve professional service agreement with Ruidoso Midtown Association to promote the Midtown District in the Village of Ruidoso in the amount of $35,000.
Second.
any discussion? Roll call, please, Jenny.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman? Aye. Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we got a lot of work to do now, so, but I have a feeling, the things that we employed during COVID, we've got that basket already deployed, so there's billboards and stuff. I know Carrie and those guys have put all that out, so I really feel like people will respond.
Once we get a date and a time for that meeting as well, I will pass that on to you guys so that if you have any other people that want to be a part of that meeting that have questions, answers, anything, I will definitely pass that on to you.
Okay,
Thanks,
thanks,
Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Thank you,
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Chris. Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, discussion and possible action on request to schedule a public hearing on August 13, 2024 to appeal the denial of variance for Planning Commission Case PV 2024-126, 300 Pine Road, Lot 9, Block 9 of the Midway Townsite Subdivision. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mayor and Council. Today, we're bringing forth a request to have an appeal scheduled for a denial for variance at 300 Pine Road. The hearing was held on our our May 4th meeting, and they are requesting that we get them in front of you to overturn the planning commission's decision to deny. The request is being heard today as a regular item instead of a consent item, as previously it was brought up that we have had some appeals come through that should have been vetted properly. So
Because they
today-
didn't meet the appeal requirements.
Correct. So today we are bringing it forth so you can see the written request along with the planning commission's denial and either approve or deny the request as stated in municipal code.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Did they meet the requirements?
Well, that's what you're here to decide, because if you read everything on there, they have the ability to do what they wanted to do on the property, but it doesn't meet the, I don't know, that's for your decision, but it's just what she said is, you're here to decide because does it meet the requirements for an appeal? Zach, do you have anything to add? Because we've had others that just because it was denied and they didn't like it, they felt like that they could come up here, and we've had them before that it was the same information that we had before. And then some, they had different information that warranted appeals. But there's some that it doesn't meet the requirements, and so they're just wondering if they get one more.
Mayor, your ordinance says that the notice of appeal shall be on a form prescribed by the planning administrator. You got that? Check that box. Shall state the name and address of the applicant, check that box. And shall specify the error in the decision made by the planning commission in the enforcement of this article. And then when you look at his notice of appeal, he says he wishes to appeal the case for a setback variance. Midway Town Site amended was filed in 1939. The plat lacks distances, bearings, and curve data on a lot of the property lines. Is only 4,162 square feet in size and is bordered on 2 of its 3 sides by roads, leaving only 639 square feet of space to build on. I got a permit to do earthwork on the property. I set a unit on the property and hired an engineer to design retaining walls, and have done plans to bring the house to residential standards. The staff recommended approval. The P&Z said I could get a 100 square feet house on the lot without a variance, and they denied a variance. I'm asking for you to look at the effort and expense I have done and reconsider a variance for this lot. Again, the ordinance says he shall specify the error in the decision made by the planning commission. And then in his notice of request, he asks you to consider the effort and expense that he has gone to and grant the variance. So I don't know that he specifically, I mean, this is for you guys to decide. It's not a lawyer's decision of whether or not he did. Does that specify that the error that the Planning and Zoning Commission made? When you grant a variance, as you guys have come to know, it's because not granting one would create an unreasonable hardship. And what you have here is a request for a variance or a request for an appeal just based on the facts of the case. And the expense that somebody goes to is not one of the things that the planning and zoning or you guys, when hearing an appeal, consider in your evaluation of whether or not to grant a variance.
And what we're talking about is like a 10 by 10 building.
Yes, I believe it's a 10 by 14 or a 12 by 14.
Then that's more than 100 square feet.
So the reference here is the minimum building code per municipal code is no less than 150 square feet is considered a dwelling unit. There is a structure placed on here and it exceeds that amount. The Planning Commission did state to the applicant during denial that there were means to develop the property that could be expanded in height and not so much in width and still conform to the needs of the property and the property owner.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
How does it get to this point? And again, because I'm not a contractor, I'm not a builder, but if someone is going to get this far down the path, rabbit hole, whatever you want to call it, isn't there a check and balance somewhere that just said, hold on, you can't do this?
That's where we're at.
Well, I meant, but why, If I go out
Hasn't it
there and I
already
just.
been done?
Well, yeah, they've done something out there. What I'm saying is, how does it get to that point? Is it because your office says, okay, yeah, you can go out there and dig a hole, but you can only dig it 2 feet deep instead of 3 feet deep? And I know that's kind
Well,
of a
so
weird way of
like
putting
it
but-
states that the minimum code for a residential property is 7,500 square feet. This is a substandard size lot, so it does qualify for a variance. A variance is due to the hardship of the land constricting in the building, meeting the setbacks as required. This is also a corner lot, so it has 3 20-foot setbacks. With that, it did show an impacted area that would rise for staff to approve the recommendation to the council. Due to the statement being made that he had already placed a structure, there's only been 1 permit issued, and that was for the grading and excavation. So that also led into further discussions during the planning commission.
So then, if all of this was to stay the way it is now, that person's gonna have to move that structure? Is that a potential?
That structure is not permitted to inhabit the property as it stands.
But it's already up.
It has been placed, yes.
Just did it.
Well, that's why I'm like, okay.
You can't stop people, this is how, if you want it permitted and insured, and you want electrical, and you want water, and you want all these other things, you have to go through the process, and that's where we're at now, is that he just said it there.
That's why I'm saying, I want to make sure that us as the government is sitting here, we've done the right thing. I would hate to think that we said, oh, okay, you can go do a little bit, but you can't do a lot.
So when he has been in discussions with our office prior to the purchase of the property. It was recently bought knowing the size and the constraints and the zoning and the setbacks. The only permit that was issued was for grading in anticipation of building, but no approvals for the building had been done, and the variance process was explained prior to that.
Good enough, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, any other questions, any comment from the quiet section? Nope, you're good, just checking to see if you just wait. So what we need to do is, I need a motion, and depending on what it is, a motion in the affirmative, but if we want to have this moved to a public hearing next meeting. So the motion would be to grant the appeal, and then we would have it, and it would be a yes or a no vote. To either yes, have it go to the
Schedule
appeal.
the public hearing for appeal.
Yeah.
But, or we could just deny it right now.
That's what you're doing. Make a
But we have
motion to deny or,
Okay.
So would I say, I make a motion to deny the request? To
That's what
schedule a public hearing on August 13, 2024, to appeal the denial of a variance by the Planning Commission case PV 2024-126, 300 Pine Road, Lot 9, Block 9 of the Midway Townsite subdivision.
1 second.
okay, any other discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Corey,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Now then, if I can get a motion moving in closed session, we'll hold item number 4 until after closed session. Thank you, ladies, for hanging out till the end of the show.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we move into closed session for discussion of limited personnel matters, citing 1015-1H2 NMSA 1978. Further discussion subject to the attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened or pending litigation in which the Village of Ruidoso is or may become a participant, citing 1015-1H7 NMSA 1978. And finally, discussion of the purchase, acquisition, and/or disposal of real property and/or water rights by the Village of Ruidoso, citing 1015-1H8 MSA 1978, regarding lease agreement between Jim Colbert Gulf Incorporated and the Village of Ruidoso, discussion and possible action regarding the lease agreement between those two, and further stipulate that anything discussed in closed session will be brought into open session.
Second.
Final discussion? Okay, roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Corey,
Aye.
Counselor Salas, Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We will go back to the executive room.